In the UVA cemetery and columbarium, we are met with a clear ethical dilemma. When observing many of the graves, some graves, particularly the older ones, are in disrepair or hidden among unruly plant life, while other graves are well kept or even newly replaced. The university, who is responsible for the cemetery, has no legal obligation to upkeep these old headstones, given the current statement that must be agreed to. But some might consider that the university is morally responsible for upkeeping these grave sites to preserve the memories of the important university figures behind them. Now we'll hear arguments from both sides, both the con and the pro. Let's start with you guys.
While it is not typical for cemeteries to upkeep headstones, the university cemetery is not a regular cemetery. There are strict requirements to being buried that connect buried individuals very intimately with the university and the people who will inevitably visit this cemetery.
The university has the funds to keep the headstones in good condition. New plots are sold for $4,500, and the columbarium boxes can cost as much as $3,800.
It is unfair to the dead who were buried here because they died so long ago that few people can advocate for them specifically. Even so, they are important individuals to the identity of the university. The past presidents, Alderman, Hereford, Newcomb, and Shannon were all buried in the cemetery.
The university is failing to even uphold their legal duty to upkeep the grounds.
Lastly, Confederate headstones look very nice, and that cemetery was founded in 1862 and restored in 1893. So surely some upkeep was done in the last 130 years.
That's a really interesting point. Thank you for that. How do you guys respond to that?
Well, it seems like upkeeping a cemetery is actually more expensive than people realize. Headstones are usually thousands of dollars, and in order for someone to buy a long-term maintenance care package with some cemeteries, it costs as much as $50 per year, which, given that there are over 1,300 headstones here, it could cost up to $65,000 for the university to upkeep the headstones just each year.
As time passes, these headstones will deteriorate and degrade. And so when talking about the headstones of the former presidents, they have been buried here for a very long time. And so it's kind of nature's path that those headstones are going to deteriorate, versus in this part of the cemetery with this more newly done little graveyard portion, these ones look nicer and more well kept because they're newer versus the older headstones that have been here for a long time.
Yeah, and the ones that look better, it's because of donations by groups who are passionate about the people who have been buried here. So it'd be unfair if the university started to do renovations on all the graves, because people have spent, hundreds or thousands of dollars on the graves they care about, and that's money that they wouldn't get back.
I think that's a very fair point when you're looking at both how private donations can play a role, as well as the overarching fact that nothing can be preserved forever. Those are very solid points that you make. So now I turn to you guys. How would you rebut those points?
Well, when it comes to the donations, I think the university should see the cemetery as a whole, and they should receive their donations and put them forth, restoring the entire cemetery.
Right. And so when we look at these different items, I think we have to draw ourselves to a conclusion. I think there's a very deep debate to be had, but when you consider everything they've said, do you really believe there's no value in upkeep?
Well, there's something.
But maybe not what the university would otherwise have to put in order to maintain everything in the top drawer.
Yeah.
Okay. So after a strong argument that was made by those who think the grave upkeep is essential, I think it's also essential that we actually come and assess the condition of graves. So do you think this is acceptable? And do you think this is a dignified way to honor someone's life? I mean, this grave is being maintained by wood.
As we mentioned before, graves don't last forever, all right? And there's clearly been some work done, so it's not like there's no upkeep at all. And you can still read it, it's still legible. The grave looks fine. I mean, this guy is still being memorialized, despite maybe it being a little bit of a strange way to upkeep.
A reason behind this grave, and clearly the cross, he was pretty clearly religious. And so if they were to fully redo the grave, then maybe it would look a little nicer, but it would also not be what the person that it's honoring wanted to convey where they now rest. And sure, it's important to have it look nice and have it stand up, but they found a makeshift way to keep it up and keep it intact while also respecting the person that rests here, and also keeping in mind their values and what they care about and how they want to be buried.
So you're making the argument that by maintaining the original grave and not bringing in, new materials for the headstone, you're honoring the person's legacy because this is their authentic final resting
Exactly.
place.
Exactly.
So I think we can come to the conclusion here that there is a level of value in maintaining the gravestones. However, there can be some limits to spending. But in order to maintain memory and in order to maintain the university's history, it is essential that we upkeep these stones so that we can understand the impacts and as well as the individuals who are still placed here at the University of Virginia graveyard. It is essential to know who we are as a university and who were our founders, not just Jefferson and the big names. Contributions can come in all sorts of forms, and the most essential way we can honor the contributions of those who came before us is to make sure they are dignified in their final resting place. Do we all agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes.